Hello, beautiful people. So I am now in Vegas, yes, for the Andrew Yang event, the last hurrah of the year. I don't know what will happen, but I still have things to accomplish this year, with or without the Andrew Yang Gang. But you know, we have a network now, so we could do it. So I'm going to be a marketing powerhouse in the world. That's my mission from this day forward. So anyway, enjoy the behind the scenes of this Andrew Yang Vegas event of So Long. Hurrah till next time.
Tammy D, are you lonesome tonight? Welcome to Vegas, everyone. If you're lonesome tonight, get married. Marriage licenses here. You don't have to go down to get them. Go to the airport.
Welcome to the Mosaic on the Strip. We present for you Andrew Yang.
Since Andrew is not running for president anymore, Andrew let them off the hook to get back to their livelihoods, and sent me in their place to play some music and tell some jokes. So, knock knock. Who's there? I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart how grateful we are for each and every one of you. You have been with us and with Andrew every step of the way. We appreciate you so much. You have no idea. You have made our sacrifice as a family worth it. And as Andrew has said, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Celebrate tonight. I am so thrilled to be introducing Daniel Negreanu tonight, along with Andrew Yang, and it is going to be a wonderful conversation and a spectacular evening. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Daniel Negreanu and Andrew Yang.
Hello, Las Vegas. Thank you so much. Just want to give a special thank you to my incredible wife, Evelyn. Let's give her a round of applause. I think most people are more disappointed that Evelyn won't be the first lady.
It's both.
This is obviously not the occasion we'd originally planned, but I have to say there's been such an incredible sense of warmth and love and appreciation for this campaign over the last 48 hours, and it definitely feels like this is the beginning of something incredible. Or really the end of a first chapter of a movement that is gaining in strength than it is a conclusion. So I hope you feel a sense of accomplishment and pride in what we've already accomplished, and you have not seen anything yet. Thank you so much, Los Angeles.
2024! 2024! 2024! 2024! 2024!
That's right, gang, gang, gang.
What a crowd you bring about, you know? The Yang Gang, no joke. Yeah, bring it. So my first question to you, Andrew, is like from appearance, it seems like you have more fun than any other candidate. Is it as fun as it looks, or has this been like grueling?
So on one of my first trips to New Hampshire, the chairman of the Democratic Party of the state, Ray Buckley, said to me, well, I actually asked him, because he's been chairman of the Democratic Party of New Hampshire for literally something like 30 years. So if you can imagine all of the candidates he has seen come through New Hampshire over those years. And so I sat down with him and I said, hey, do you have any guidance for me? And he said, people can tell if you're enjoying yourself. And if you are enjoying yourself, then it will actually make people want to support you and follow you. And he also said, it's like people in New Hampshire can tell if you're not enjoying yourself too, and then you're just gritting your teeth through everything. And he said those candidates don't tend to do very well. So I heard that, and I said, well, I like enjoying myself more than not enjoying myself. And apparently enjoying yourself is actually a competitive advantage in this context. So I should really try and have a good time. Yes. No, the other mechanics of running is that you're in an SUV typically, like in some occasions a bus, but like 9 times out of 10 an SUV. So imagine riding in an SUV with a candidate. There are 3 or 4 of you in the vehicle. The vehicle has like Twizzlers and, you know, like just random snacks because you generally don't have time for a meal. There are like wrappers everywhere. And imagine if you're trapped in that vehicle with this person hours and hours a day, and that person's grumpy. And they're your boss. You know, like, so if you're on that team, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is like such a slog. So I always wanted to try and keep the atmosphere positive and light for my team because I was sensitive to the fact that I don't think any of us likes riding in a vehicle with our boss. Just generally, you know? It's like if you had to fly somewhere with your boss, like the last thing you want to do is be sitting next to them on the plane. So imagine that just revved up day after day after day. So I thought that having a good time was not just important for appearance's sake, but for maintaining the morale and positivity of the people around me. Because people take their cues from you if you're leading an organization. And so if you're in a bad mood, then everyone all of a sudden becomes in a bad mood around you. And that was the last thing I wanted for my team. So I genuinely just said to myself, you know, like I should enjoy myself on this journey. And if you can't enjoy yourself when you're fighting for the things you believe in, then you're probably doing it wrong.
So first and foremost, I want to say I've been Yang Gang for a while, and you guys are a very welcoming crew. And I've been a big fan, and what really drew me to you and your campaign, first and foremost, was a deeper understanding of the UBI, Universal Basic Income. And I'm curious how you were inspired or how you got drawn to this idea.
Well, I also want to give massive shout out and thank you to Daniel, who was one of the OGs of the Yang Gang before. And, he's an incredible role model. So many people admire you, Daniel. The fact that you threw down and said, hey, it's Andrew Yang, it's this set of ideas, meant a lot, and it took a lot of leadership on your part. So really, thank you.
Logic, I'm a poker player. We think logically, and he still is the obvious logical choice as far as I was concerned.
So I came to universal basic income over a period of years, really, where I started an organization called Venture of America that helped create several thousand jobs in the Midwest and the South. And during that time, I was reading books about the future of work quite often. And a lot of the books about the future of work were written by technologists from MIT, like Eric Brynjolfsson or Martin Ford, Rise of the Robots. I don't know if you've read any of these books. But I felt like it was part of my job to read these books. And I'd read these books, and they would often end with something saying, hey, we should really do something like universal basic income because it's just going to be a matter of time. And I saw that over the years and thought, yeah, that makes sense to me. We really should do that. And then it was a 2015 book by a guy named Andy Stern, who used to run the SEIU, the biggest labor union in the country, where he came out and said, the future of labor is no labor, we're screwed and we need to move to universal basic income. And I thought, wow, this guy who spent decades of his life leading the biggest labor union in the country, who's argued for the primary value of human labor for decades, came and said, look, this road's not going to work, we need to evolve. And to me, that was even more powerful than when a technologist said it, because we tend to see things through our own experiences. And so technologists often say, we're going to automate away all the jobs. And then you can take it with a grain of salt because you're like, well, you would think that, you're a technologist. But then the labor guy came out and said, yeah, we're going to automate away all the jobs. And so that to me was like a conceptual bookend, where it's like you had people on both ends of the spectrum make the same conclusion. And I had come to the same conclusion by traveling the Midwest and the South over those 7 years, where if you go to a place like Detroit, Detroit's peak population was something like 1.7 million. Today it has 680,000 people in it. So imagine a city that's 2/3 empty. And imagine walking that city. And if you look at the headlines, you tend to get the extremes. You get on one side, like the hipsters and the baristas and the artist lofts. And then you also get ruin porn, where it's just like decrepit buildings and neighborhoods as far as the eye can see. And so having experienced that kind of reality of what a post-automation community looks like, combined with the conceptual bookends, I eventually concluded, we need universal basic income yesterday. We probably should have passed it decades ago, back in the 60s and 70s when it came this close to being law. And as an entrepreneur, you kind of have two attitudes about things. Number one is someone else will do it. That almost never works. So yeah, someone else will take care of it. And then number two is like, well, I should do it. And so it was really over a period of years that I concluded we needed universal basic income some time ago. And it also hit me that no one was going to make this happen. And I checked. Before I decided to run for president, I called around and was like, hey, anyone who run for president, universal basic income? It was really, I went to the universal basic income conference. And showed up and was like, hey, anyone actually going to do anything about this? And I was like, no. We're just going to talk to each other about it. And I was like, well, shit, that's not going to do anything. So I arrived at it over a period of years, and then it really hit me full force around 2016.
So you've been really the only candidate that seems to have a grasp or an understanding, or even is talking about artificial intelligence and automation. What makes you so sure that this leads to job loss? Because a lot of people, detractors may say that well, it creates new jobs. I mean, what is it first of all that you believe that it's inevitable, and how do you combat this theory that new jobs will be created to level it off?
Well, first, how many of you are actually based here in Nevada? So Nevada is actually number one in the entire country, all 50 states, for the proportion of jobs that are likely to be impacted by automation because of the nature of the industries here in the state. Those industries are retail, hospitality, gaming, call centers, transportation, bartending. All of these industries are very, very highly subject to technological automation, at least theoretically. And the economics, it's like the economics are getting better and better for this stuff all the time. So what made me certain about it is that I understand how organizations function. I understand where the technology is heading. I said it in very simple terms on the stump, is that technology is getting stronger, more powerful, more capable all the time. And generally speaking, we are not. And I joke and I say, look, I'm an adult. I'm actually glad if I don't get dumber on any given day. Like, if I found my keys today, it's like, all right, thumbs up. Like, things still work. But the technology is getting almost exponentially more powerful in a way that most people can barely conceive of. And I spoke at a group of 70 CEOs in New York City, and I asked them, how many of you are looking at replacing your back office clerical workers with artificial intelligence and software? And every single hand went up. And I knew their incentives were to try and optimize the bottom line of their organizations, and so they have to replace those workers with AI if they can do so. And so the question is, do we think that AI is going to be able to do the job of an average call center worker sometime in the next number of years? And the answer to that seems to be almost like 99.999% yes, because if you look at your interaction with a customer service representative, you don't need genuine artificial intelligence. You need a decision tree with probably hundreds of prompts and software that can detect changes in your tone of voice. But these things are very, very technologically possible now. So I'm certain about this, Daniel, in part because I understand how organizations work. And I also understand that most of the work that people are doing in these organizations is not like profound, deeply creative, intrinsically irreplaceable human work. Like a lot of the stuff we do, we all know it's like I'm just like pushing things around, like doing relatively repetitive tasks. Like the rest of it, I mean, like just facing facts. Like when you get into these organizations and you push the administrator, they'll tell you it's like, yeah, we're trying to replace 30-40% of people.
So it seems to me that running for president requires like raising a lot of money, right? And it seems everyone, at least on the Democratic side, is for repealing Citizens United. Do you feel like that's enough? Because I haven't heard any other real campaign reform policies that make sense other than the democracy dollars.
So the democracy dollars plan, if you're not familiar, is that we give every American voter $100 that you can give to any candidate or campaign, use it or lose it. It's like an elegant way to publicly finance campaigns, and then you put the money into your hands, and then you can support whichever candidate. And I agree that talking about repealing Citizens United is inadequate in at least two ways. Number one, it requires a supermajority in the constitutional amendment to repeal Citizens United, so talking about it doesn't mean you can do it. And number two, corporate money and lobbyist cash ran the government before Citizens United. Citizens United just made it worse. There was an Onion headline that I thought was really funny, but actually correct. It said, "The American people hire lobbyists to represent our interests on Capitol Hill." And because that's like about the only thing that would work. It's like you have to have a lobbyist go in there and be like, I represent the American people. Stop shafting us, please. Because those are the kind of people that our legislators respond to. So talking about repealing Citizens United is correct. We should repeal Citizens United. But we have to go much, much bigger to actually bring the people and the money together. Because right now, if you have money on one side and people on the other, who wins in America? The money. We all know the money wins. So the question is, can we get the money and the people together? And that's why the democracy dollars proposal is so important.
With that proposal, would that mean that, would there be like, in addition to that, sort of a law passed where corporations could no longer donate? Or could you like eliminate it completely?
That would be the goal. If you can repeal Citizens United and say, look, corporate donations are not a form of expression that are protected. That would be ideal. I mean, we're a democracy. If you have every person have $100, we like vote with that, and then we could have some ability to donate on top of that. But the $100 a piece. Right now, only 5% of Americans donate to political campaigns. So thank you to everyone who donated to the campaign. But you are highly unusual. And so if you got, and so one of the jokes I asked people, it's like, what percentage of Americans would donate if you had $100 free dollars? Go ahead and like throw out a percentage. What percentage you guys think? 70. I heard 50, 60, 70. Those sound order of magnitude realistic. Something like 55% of Americans vote, 57%, somewhere in that order of magnitude. So if you got 50% of Americans to donate their democracy dollars, you would wash out the lobbyist cash by a factor of 4 or 5 to 1.
Yeah, so, you've been able to create something that I don't think any other candidate has. And that, when you decided to suspend your campaign, you had CNN and Van Jones singing you praises. You have Tucker Carlson on Fox News singing you praises. It's pretty unanimous. And I know a decent number of Trump supporters, and the one thing they continually tell me is, I'd never vote for a Democrat other than maybe that John Yang guy. So, what do you think the Democrats get wrong about, Trump supporters or, everything related to that?
Thank you.
As long as they have my last name right, they can identify me on the ballot. I think that many Democrats have taken the position that Donald Trump is the source of all of America's problems. Now, everything was going great until Trump came along. And I've been trying to make the case that Donald Trump does not win unless there are actually deep problems that have been building up for a long period of time.
Right.
And what I say to folks is, look, corporate profits are at record highs in the United States of America. What else are at record highs? And then everyone knows, go ahead and shout out, what else are at record highs in the United States? Yes, suicide, depression, indebtedness, student loan debt, substance abuse, anxiety, medical bankruptcy, like the temperature. These are all things that we all know are going on in America today, that all of these social ills are at record highs. Record lows right now in the United States of America, starting a business for a young person, getting married, having a child, things that you associate with a healthy, thriving society. So for Democrats to look up and say, hey, everything was going great, it's like, how could everything be going great if literally every negative thing you can think of is at an all-time high, and a lot of the good things you think about are at an all-time low? That's not a healthy society. And so we need to start curing the disease that got Donald Trump elected instead of acting like Donald Trump's the source of all of our problems. And I was really excited when a friend of mine whose mother watches Fox News and gets all of her news from Fox, she said that the only Democrat I would support in the field is Andrew Yang. She got my first name right this one. So the only Democrat I would support in the field is Andrew Yang because he's the only one who does not seem to be judging me. And that's I think a very important lesson for Democrats, is that Democrats seem to be somewhat judgmental about Donald Trump and everyone who supported Donald Trump. And that to me is not the right approach. It's like many people voted for Donald Trump for first different reasons, but also very legitimate concerns about the fact that our government has not been responding to the needs of a lot of people, a lot of families, a lot of communities for a long time.
Right, so on that note, how do we beat someone like Donald Trump in the general election?
Hey?
Oh.
Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang!
Now, I genuinely think I would have beaten Donald Trump in the game. That's why I ran. I thought I had a great chance to beat him. If you look at the people who are in the field, I still do. I unsuspend. I appreciate that We'll be back, gang, no worries. But in terms of beating Donald Trump in the fall, it's so interesting because, like, I know obviously many of the candidates pretty well at this point. They all gave me a call over the last, number of hours.
Popular guy.
Yeah, I was very popular over the last 48 hours. I gotta say, there are a lot of people blowing up my phone.
New phone, who dis?
I'm inclined generally to say, look, this is what this process is about, is that like someone is going to emerge our nominee and then I'll support that person in the general. But it is a tough call to see which of the people in the field is going to be able to beat Donald Trump in the fall. I think Trump's going to be very, very formidable. Is going to have significant levels of resources, and many, many Americans who are very bought in. And so it's going to be a tough race in the fall. And I don't think anyone looks at the Democratic field and says this particular person is like 100% slam dunk.
So you put out a tweet a few months ago that really got everyone in the poker community super excited about online poker. You said something very logical and practical, and we're all like, yes, this is our guy. The state of online poker now in the U.S. is it's regulated in Nevada, in New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, at the state levels. Do you see a possibility for something to be passed at the federal level, or is this something that needs to be just done state by state?
I 100% think this should be done at the federal level. I think generally speaking in this country, if you have a state-by-state hodgepodge, it's not helpful for anyone. And this applies to the legalization of marijuana as well. But I have to give credit to the folks here in Nevada, where it was someone here in Nevada. You might even be in the room if you're here. Oh, you're here? Nice stuff. Thank you. So I had a town hall here in Las Vegas, and then he came up to me like afterwards, we were doing selfies, and was like, hey, you should really talk about a federal legalization of online poker, because right now you got the state-by-state hodgepodge, and it doesn't really make sense. And so I heard that, and I was like, instinctively I was like, yeah, this guy's right. You're right. And what's funny is these are the kinds of problems that most politicians don't talk about. But to me, these are the problems we should be talking about, because it would clarify the state-by-state set of rules. It would make it so that certain people are able to trust more so in like the companies that are administering these. It would also make it so that people who make a livelihood in this space would have greater clarity and protection.
Thank you.
And so, like what was your name again?
Noah.
So when Noah said to me, hey, you should really come out for the federal legalization of online poker, because it would bring this business back onshore. Right now, everyone's using these weird, janky, not all of them, because there's some domestic stuff too, and you can do it within the state, but like a lot of people are using these offshore sites, and I was like, why the heck are we pushing this stuff out of the country? It's like we should be bringing it in and just make it easier for you to trust and like have odds that you trust, and just legalize it at the federal level. So when Noah suggested this to me, I was like, this reminds me of a lot of other issues that we're attacking in a way that does not make any sense. We should have an approach that works for the entire country.
So you clearly created a movement, right? Yang Gang. Obviously, a lot of people were disappointed, after New Hampshire when you decided to suspend. So what do you tell these people? What's next for the Yang Gang movement? Because it doesn't stop here, right?
Yang Gang for life!
So you should all know that I fully expected to run until the last dog died. Like I was going to stay in the entire primary season, because I started out on this journey, and I was like, I don't have a political seat to protect. Like I'm in this to advance a set of ideas and a vision for the country. I think would excite many, many people. I want to get this across the finish line. I want to grow the movement. And so for the longest time, I was like, well, of course, like it doesn't really matter what happens in the early states. Like I'm just going to keep on advancing through the calendar. And it was only after some people I like and trust came to me and said, hey, like if you want to maximize the potential of this movement, you're actually better served with like a different timing structure. because of a number of factors, and they laid them out. And I looked at it and I was like, these guys seem to be talking sense. Like, I consider myself a very, very rational, data-driven person. So if someone presents like a very, very data-driven case to me, I look at it and be like, all right. And so we got out. Like, who presented that case? There's a bunch of, it's a bunch of people working the team. Some of them are backstage. Some of them we pay for good advice. And so after I was persuaded, I said, you know what? If we drop now, then we can continue to build a movement in different ways. To your question. And that's the direction we're going to head. So you'll know more in the next number of, let's call it, I would say somewhere in like, I don't want to put it because someone in the back's going to kill me if I give it time. But I will say something somewhere between the next like 2 to 6 weeks. Like, we'll have some kind of announcement about it. And I have to say, there has been such a love fest about me and the campaign after the fact, where when I talk about my phone ringing off the hook, I mean, it's like everyone from Barack Obama called to like, but there are a bunch of news organizations too that now are very excited about the ideas of this campaign, and there is a little bit like, like, where the fuck were you like a week ago? There's of course a little bit of that, because you're like, like, this would have been nice, like February 9th, let's say. But the ideas of this campaign are actually gaining currency and strength. And the really funny thing is that it does seem to me over the last 48 hours that my no longer being a presidential candidate has actually enabled more people to be like, okay, now that you're out, like, your ideas are actually so I'm very, very proud of the fact that we ran a campaign that in many ways transcended politics. That there was like a war of ideas that we could still wage and still win outside of the mechanics of a primary race. And I think that's great. Like, there were some things I was doing on the trail that were very, very helpful if you were running for president, but may or may not be the best way to advance the ideas, the goals, on a larger scale. So I'm going to take advantage of this period to try and advance the ideas of this campaign on the largest scale possible throughout the country.
So obviously you're like the belle of the ball, or whatever they call it, where every other candidate is looking to, I've been on Twitter and it seems like every camp is like, join us, please, right? So everyone wants a piece of Andrew Yang. What would it take for a candidate to get an endorsement from you?
Again, right now I'm inclined to let the democratic process play out, and I will back whoever the nominee is. But I've already come out and said, look, if you stand up and say we should give every American $1,000 a month, and you make the ideas of this campaign very, very important and central to yours, and you do it in like a way that's clear that this is going to be top of your agenda as president, I've already said to the field, like, look, if you come out big for universal basic income, then the odds of my endorsing you would be like very, very high, like in a significant time frame.
And only for billionaires.
If anyone comes out for universal basic income, then the odds of my endorsing them would be like very, very high in that relative time period. And again, they all have my phone number, so they know how to get in touch with me. So that would be one very, very big move. Like others, they have been talking to me about and I think it's safe to say that if we win, like, there's a high chance that I'd want to try and take a role in the administration. If it was a high enough impact role, we could start solving some of the problems. I think I said in the Atlantic, it's like I'm out of dick. So like, if you, so if you want us to do some work, like I'm happy to do work. Yeah. So Vice President and Secretary of Technology are two roles that I'm. come out and said, because we really do need to catch our government up on technology policies in like the worst way. We're like so far behind.
But then run against them.
And so I will say the other candidates are calling my team and I trying to get me to see if there might be a way to endorse. And the timing is such that those conversations are hot and heavy now because the field is very much trying to sort itself out over the next 2.5 weeks. And the people here in Nevada will have a very, very big voice in that. So to the extent that you want to make your voice heard, I will also say that Andrew Yang is still on the ballot here in Nevada. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a big total at the end of the primary process and being like, look how many people voted for the freedom dividend. We can do it all this.
Well, I just want to say on behalf of all the Yang Gangers, thank you so much for making it out here because, obviously, this is a trip you didn't have to take, and I think we all really appreciate it and are excited to see what comes next. I know for me, coming into this election cycle, I really wasn't all that inspired by anyone until you came along, and that's still the case. So, we're really proud of the campaign that you ran, Yang Gangers for Life, and
Thank you, Las Vegas. I love you all. This crowd, this community has been tremendous to me, and we will be back, so get ready.
Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang! Andrew Yang!
Thank you, Las Vegas. You guys are the best. Keep an eye out, because the Yang Gang is going to keep on growing, and we're going to help advance our way of life to make this economy work for our people, our families, our values. Let's make it happen. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, everybody. Andrew! Andrew! Andrew!
Alright, guys.
Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach.
Zach!
Hey, guys. Hey, I have to be the bad guy. I need y'all to clear out. I'm so sorry. I'm not that sorry because someone's yelling at me, and this makes me get them to stop yelling at me. But thank you all. We love you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you all coordinate and go out in Vegas and have an epic night. That place, not my place. Don't come to my place. But you gotta go. Don't make me more of a bad guy than being. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. We're gonna cut the music. We're gonna let people go. It's time to go. Love you guys. We'll see you later. We'll see you in 2024. It'll be great.
I almost got a room at that. See that hotel with the green roof? Yes. Almost got a room at
So this,
I wasn't even sure it was like Spanish. So.
Why is he involved in this and saying that?
oh, King Pack. Awesome. Being documented.
You know, this whole thing needs to be documented.
Yes.
All making excuses.
They.